Great. Okay, we're going to go ahead and dive in. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have been absolutely delighted with the interest in the topic for today's webinar. Because for us, our teams here at Alvéole, we have been buzzing, pun intended, about nature and biodiversity reporting for a while now. And it's just so wonderful to see that enthusiasm shared. We love our customers. We love that commercial real estate is starting to pay more attention to biodiversity impact assessment and reporting, and we could not be more thrilled than to be bringing this tool to you. So quick introduction before I forget, because I always do. My name is Emily. I've been lucky enough to work with Alvéole for over a decade, and I'm currently work as a specialist on our product and innovation team, where we're really committed to finding new ways to bring nature-based solutions to market. So today's one of my favorite days where we get to share one of our newer developments with so many people. So what is on the agenda today? I'll share a few words about Alvéole in case there are folks tuning in who are a little bit less familiar. And then seeing as we're walking through our reporting engine today, I thought it'd be helpful to share a few words as well about why nature and biodiversity reporting matters. We're also going to have a look at some of the behind the scenes of how we collect the data that is featured in our reports, and followed by my favorite part, a walkthrough of the reporting feature live. So very much looking forward to that. And then I will do my best to make sure to leave some time for Q&A, some questions at the very end. With that, let me mention as well that as throughout the course of the presentation, if there are questions that pop up for you, please feel free to share them in the Q&A chat. One of our lovely colleagues is going to be monitoring that today, and we will touch on them at the end. So yeah, like I said, just a quick words on Alvéole for those who are maybe less familiar with us. But so our mission with Alvéole, really the core of our mission is to connect people with nature. And we specialize in doing this with the commercial real estate industry. Currently, we are partnered with over 2,200 companies across the US, Canada, and Europe as well. And we bring to our customers a variety of nature-based programming and solutions that really leverage on-site honeybee hives and solitary bee habitats to bring a whole variety of benefits to our customers. And yeah, really at the core of our mission with Alvéole is environmental education and engagement. And for any attendees, I definitely recognize some names here today. For any attendees who have attended an Alvéole workshop at your sites, you will know very well the power that the bees have to engage people and to really create a lasting impact for tenants. And our teams are really all about capitalizing on any and every opportunity to connect your building's community with the bee program, as well as with your biodiversity efforts at large. And we've got a team of some of the most passionate facilitators and beekeepers out there who are, as we speak, visiting your buildings and connecting with tenants every single month. But recently with Alvéole, we have been on a really energizing evolution over the past few years, where we've been discovering how we can leverage our on-site pollinator assets, like honeybee hives and solitary bee homes, not only as these great engagement tools, but also as really powerful biomonitoring tools. And this has really given us the ability to provide our customers with some pretty innovative data with insights into the makeup of the biodiversity that surrounds your buildings. And I'm very excited to share this with you in more detail in just a few minutes. But so why does biodiversity reporting matter? To start with, the built environment is responsible for 30% of biodiversity loss. And what this means is that the commercial real estate industry is really uniquely positioned to make a huge positive impact on biodiversity if changes are made to how biodiversity stewardship is approached. Increasingly, biodiversity targets for corporates and for cities are very much on the rise. In parts of Europe, biodiversity reporting is actually already mandatory. As well, in the UK, biodiversity net gain requirements are compulsory. And the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, it's currently mandatory for over 50,000 companies in the EU. And although other frameworks like the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, the TNFD, which folks may have heard of, are still voluntary, there are hundreds of early adopters who have already aligned with the TNFD framework, including some pretty major funds like BlackRock. And yeah, just in general, what we're seeing as well is that sustainability reporting is starting to put a greater focus on biodiversity. A recent example, in the 2025 GRESB announcement, it was revealed that there is an addition of a new section about biodiversity strategy and nature-related risk management. And more developments like this across different frameworks can be really expected across the board in the coming years. And just a quick note too on that 2025 GRESB announcement, we actually have reporting that aligns directly with their new biodiversity section. And similarly, we're going to continue to develop reporting that complements these evolving frameworks as they're released. So this is very much kind of an active, evolving space, and we are just so energized to be able to kind of continue contributing and stay up to date with what's being released. So what's our solution for biodiversity assessment, and how is Alvéole uniquely positioned to really bring an innovative edge to your reporting? As has been the case for us so many times before, really our edge comes down to the really remarkable aptitude of these very precious creatures who we are very, very attached to, very grateful for at Alvéole. So these are honeybees. We'd always known about the power of bees to engage people and to spark questions and, really create connection to the urban environment. But it was a really impactful moment when we started to piece together the potential of honeybee and wild bee data for biomonitoring. So if we picture the day-to-day of these bees who, these thousands of bees who occupy all of the hives on our sites globally, they spend all of their daylight hours visiting thousands of flowers every single day in the 3-mile or 5-kilometer radius around their hive. And while the bees are doing this, they're collecting nectar and they're collecting pollen to help feed their colony. Wild bees like bumblebees are doing this too. But they're also collecting hundreds of thousands of valuable pieces of eDNA in the form of pollen, showcased beautifully by this worker bee here. And all of these traces of pollen, they make their way into the bee's honey. And in thinking, kind of switching that perspective and thinking of this pollen that the bees are collecting as eDNA, we realized that this was just a treasure trove of information that we really had to find a way to, be able to harness and be able to bring these insights to our customers that are being collected by our bees on the daily. So to capture this eDNA, so kind of some context on how we collect this data. Our beekeepers meticulously harvest honey samples from your hives, from their honey frames, all throughout the course of the year. So even if it's not the main honey harvest, our beekeepers during inspections will be going in, taking these great little samples of honey. They'll take it from different parts of the frame to really get a great full picture. And our beekeepers are always taking fantastic photos throughout this process. So really that emphasis on engagement. We share these photos with you throughout the year so that you can then share, these very unique efforts with your community as well. And once we've collected samples throughout the whole season, typically in the early fall, we will then send all of these honey eDNA samples to be analyzed. And what we receive in return is a really robust picture of the otherwise very tricky to assess floral diversity surrounding your asset. So, it's kind of remarkable to think that, this unconscious work being done by your honeybees as they go out to forage for food in flowers, it really is this like unmatched, it's unmatched in scale when it comes to urban eDNA collection. So it's really exciting to be able to kind of harness that. But honeybee hives, they aren't the only pollinator services that we utilize in our programs. We also monitor undomesticated bee populations, which are often called wild bees or solitary bees. And we do this by installing these nesting habitats on site, which we often refer to as wild bee homes. And whereas with honeybee colonies, we arrive on site with these pre-populated hives, we're kind of bringing these bees to your location. With wild bee homes, what we're doing is we're simply providing nesting habitat for bee and insect species that already exist on site and in the surrounding environment. And there's really a huge breadth of different insect species that use this, that really rely on this kind of cavity nesting, so nesting in holes or tubes. And because of that, the degree of nesting that we record in our bee homes over the course of the season and over the course of year over year, this becomes a really valuable biodiversity indicator. And conveniently, this insect nesting is also a metric that has really actionable steps for improvement year over year. And this here is just a great image of some leafcutter bees who nested very conveniently in one of these great little observation drawers that you can pull out of these bee homes. So again, focusing on engagement, we really always try to, even though our emphasis is on data, we take every opportunity to bring your community into connection with this program. And yeah, so floral and insect population diversity and abundance. The reason why we put quite a bit of emphasis on this is because they really make up the foundation of our healthy urban ecosystems. And we see this reality, recognized and reflected in frameworks for state of nature assessments. And in many cases, just the very act of monitoring the biodiversity around your asset is a really key aspect of gaining points in these areas. But, another important and pretty dominant factor in biodiversity loss in both urban and rural areas is pesticide use. And it's typically pretty difficult to monitor pesticide presence. But once again, our hardworking honeybees, fortunately and unfortunately, they are very effective at collecting traces of different pesticides within their environment. And so it's been very exciting to develop kind of a silver lining to that reality by being able to install these pesticide strips inside our honeybee hives. And these little strips will pick up on the minuscule, even trace amounts of pesticide that the honeybees are bringing back to the hive with them from their surrounding environment. And the results that we get back from these strips really break down the results are broken down by different types of pesticide as well as the different amount. So whether it be fungicide or herbicide or rodenticide, et cetera, we'll really be able to see all that information. And this can then play a really integral role in the implementation of targeted, IPM practices on site. So while floral diversity, eDNA, and insect abundance and pesticide monitoring, all of these factors are very important within the world of biodiversity reporting. But we also know that in the context of commercial real estate, engagement data is really crucial. So in our reporting engine, you'll also find tenant impact metrics that record the number of participants who show up for the on-site workshops that we perform, as well as insights into the interactions online with the online platform that's included in all of our services. And this is really a platform where tenants can come and learn about the program, get updates from their beekeepers with photos every few weeks. So we include all of this information in our reporting feature as well. And now, this brings me to my favorite part of what we're touching on today, a walkthrough of our feature. So our reporting engine, it lives in the same place as the MyHive pages that you might be familiar with if you are a customer of ours already. So it lives within your Alvéole account. Once you're signed in to your Alvéole account, you can access the reporting engine from a couple different places. One thing that's been that we've really put a lot of emphasis on in our reporting is making sure that you can really see your reporting at the portfolio level, so that you can really at a glance kind of compare your different assets, see how they're scoring. So with this all assets function, you're brought to a portfolio summary. It is entirely up to you which buildings you would like to see within this portfolio. This will showcase buildings who have biomonitoring within their packages. So for customers who are familiar, those are Welcome Local Pollinators and Track Your Impact packages at the moment that include this feature. Something that we've been very conscious to do as well is include some benchmarking. So we know that it's always really valuable to be able to assess how you're doing in comparison to the average of the industry. So that's what we provide here at the top of your portfolio summary. We help you kind of gauge how your assets are doing, how the aggregated kind of data from your assets are doing in comparison to the industry average. So this is really pooling together the data from all of our participating sites and being able to give us that kind of benchmark. At the bottom of this all assets view, you also have an asset summary where you can really quickly see asset by asset how each asset is comparing to the industry average. And then once you've kind of taken in this information at a glance, really our whole goal is to help you be able to prioritize and be able to see pretty quickly which of your assets require the most attention when it comes to the health of biodiversity. And you can then click on an asset to be brought to the asset-specific reporting page. And this is really where you're going to see the breakdown and the exact complete results of each of these different buckets of data. And I'll just note as well that you can always navigate to this straight from the asset-specific dropdown in the sidebar and just click on reporting to be brought to this page. So what we have here in the asset-specific data pages, like I mentioned, the different buckets of data that we collect. So here we have floral diversity, insect nesting, and tenant impact. In the floral diversity section that I'm a little bit biased towards, I think this information is so cool. It's so unique. We have taken your floral diversity results and we've broken them down into different indicators, different metrics. So we can see here at the top, again, we're including some benchmarking so that you can see asset by asset how your building is scoring on biodiversity. For each of these different metrics, we give a brief description of the relevance. We also highlight which of the major frameworks each of these metrics is relevant for. We then give you, based on your results, we highlight some key insights and recommendations as well. So looking at all of your data, looking at your floral diversity results, we will pull a couple key biodiversity insights, and then we'll give you five targeted species recommendations to really answer to those insights. So the biodiversity insights and the targeted recommendations are really kind of coupled together. In addition, in our recommendations, we also provide you with an expanded recommendations list, and this features native species that are local to your specific ecoregion. And these are these are species that are really very beneficial to pollinators as well as different types of insects, so that are host plants largely. And we have compiled these lists with landscaping and grounds teams in mind. So we really wanted to make this easy to share. And I should mention as well that you can download your report at any time while exploring your data. You click download, and then it'll save a PDF version of your report directly to your computer, which you can then share with colleagues or grounds teams, whoever you need to share this information with very easily. Quickly, I'm looking at the time, want to make sure to leave time for questions. We also give you your complete eDNA results. So this is really every single floral species that was detected from your honey samples. We divide it by season. And so, while on paper, this looks like just a list of different plant species, really, this is also a beautiful, robust picture of all of this blooming floral plant life around your asset. And this is information that previously was very, very hard or impossible to collect. So for you or anyone on your team who's particularly curious to know exactly what was in there, we make sure to give you the entire list. So you can see some of them are really quite extensive on what the bees are picking up. Finally, in each of our different sections, we make sure to give some context about the data. Again, always wanting to educate and to share and to give context for all of this great nature information. Quickly, we have here the insect nesting section where we, again, share some benchmarking with you. We share the observations that the beekeepers were recording throughout the year in terms of the nesting materials, the number of tubes, the estimated number of cocoons that you're supporting. And we illustrate that information as well with this seasonal nesting fluctuation graph, which is really interesting to see when you're finding most insects nesting and where there's maybe gaps. And, depending on how deep you want to go, we can also help you figure out, how you can target, based on this data, how you can target additional plant species to add to your site to help respond to this. We also share a little spotlight on the different critters who were the dominant nesting species. We share some recommendations for how to optimize nesting, and again, just some information about how the data was collected. And finally, in the tenant impact, this is where we list the information about your workshops. So the number of attendees that were recorded by our grounds teams. We also share the online engagement of your online platform. We provide the QR code here, nice and easy to put that on posters, in signage and elevators, really put it all over the place to help encourage your community at your building to engage with the project. So there you have it. That is an overview of the feature. Let me just say, I mentioned it a little bit earlier on, but really this whole era of nature and biodiversity reporting is just getting started, and different frameworks and certifications are being developed and adapted to factor in biodiversity requirements, as we speak. And so in this really quickly evolving space, we're very excited and we're very determined at Alvéole to continue to release new features and new metrics and new data collection options to really complement and ultimately influence as well what's possible with the developments in nature and biodiversity reporting down the line. So all that to say, we're delighted to have released this feature. So fun to share it with you today. And you can expect future developments to come down the line pretty consistently. Okay, so I'm going to head over to our Q&A. And let's see, I am joined by one of my colleagues, Devin, who is one of our technical experts on our product and innovation team. Devin, maybe you've been paying a little bit more attention to the questions. Do you have any on top of mind?
Yes, I can read them out for you. First question was from Antoinette about how is floral diversity quantified and / created as a metric?
Yeah, great question. So for the floral diversity, we've really taken a look at different frameworks and have tried to identify, okay, based on this information that our bees have collected about the floral diversity around your asset, how can we derive interesting information from this that will be relevant for your reporting? So, for example, a big one is looking at the number of native species that were detected, as well as the number of invasive species. This is something that frameworks highlight quite a bit. We're able to look as well at the seasonal distribution. So we're able to um, compare the number of species hits that come up in the samples throughout the year and identify gaps. For the for the diversity of insect and pollinator populations in our cities, they really require constant access to forage. So that can give some really great insights. But if you want to reach out, Antoinette, we would also be happy to dive a little bit deeper into this in more detail if you have more specific questions for us.
We've got a lot of questions rolling in.
Nice.
We also had one from Daisy about how long is the data held for? Is it 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. At the moment, this is a relatively new feature for us. This is the second year that we have been releasing this biodiversity data. At the moment, we know that year-over-year comparison is a really important factor in this reporting. And so at the moment, our intention is for you to have access to that data throughout the years.
Awesome. We have a couple from Sebastian. And actually, it looks like there's a repeat question, but a few people were asking about the frequency of how often the data is updated.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start with that one first, and then I'll get the other ones.
Okay, great question. So we release data to you as we receive it. So we really want to make sure that you are being kept up to speed with new data as it comes. For the floral diversity data, our beekeepers are collecting those honey samples, those eDNA samples, all throughout the year, and we really send them in one batch in the early fall. And part of that is to make sure that we were able to deliver, that big chunk of the reporting to you before the end of the year, so that you can use that in your own reports. And then other pieces like the wild bee nesting information, you get those updates live as our beekeepers record their observations. For the pesticide sampling, that can happen at different points throughout the year. But really our intention is to be able to deliver this data throughout the course of the year for you. However, it must be noted that the bulk of your data will come more in kind of one chunk in the fall period.
Awesome. And then the second question from Sebastian was, how audible is the data?
That's a good question. Actually, Devin, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so we work with a lab partner who does all of the analysis. And so it is audible. And if you ever need for your own reporting to get more of the source files, we are able to share that. And it is at the level of ground truthing. So if that is something that you are reporting on and you want to have ground truthed data, our results are in line with that. So we're happy to share. It's your results, so we're happy to share that with you as well if you need it.
Nice. And
Um,
opportunity to say, just looking at the time, we can take a couple more questions. But just wanted to say, if you would like to send us an email, please do. We would love to follow up with some more information for you. I love how many questions there are. This is great. We love having lots of questions. So yeah, feel free to reach out. We will forward you on. We'll either be able to answer your questions ourselves or forward you on to colleagues who can help you do some deeper diving into how to bring this to your site. As well, let me just mention, we're right in the middle of Earth Month. This is really fun, busy month for us at Alvéole. On Earth Day, I'll actually be hosting another webinar if you're not tired of me yet. We'll be hosting a webinar open to everybody. And this is kind of one of our, really the focus is just to educate about this beautiful world of wild bees that is a little bit lesser known than our honeybees. So feel free to register for this, to share it with your community. We would love that. And knowing me, who's also on the call, maybe if you want to share the link to the webinar registration for this, that would be great. And yeah, Devin, do you want to maybe pull one more question?
Sure. There was a few questions that came in that are around the same subject. It was about is reporting an added feature? I don't see that option on our MyHive site.
Hmm.
Data benchmarked with sites that don't have the reporting. So if you could give maybe a little bit more elaboration into that, that'd be great.
Yeah, wonderful question. So yes, the reporting feature is only visible if you are a in the second or third tier of our packages. The titles of those packages at the moment are Welcome Local Pollinators and Track Your Impact. Those are the two services that include. Let me come back over here to the reporting tool for a quick second. Those are the only packages that include this data, this reporting feature. We can see here if you are a Track Your Impact client, you have the floral diversity, the insect nesting, and the tenant impact. If you are a Welcome Local Pollinators client, you will have the insect nesting data and the tenant impact data. So really depends with what's included in your package, but if you're not seeing it on your MyHive page, that is normal. It just means that it's something that you'll have to add on to your package, and that we'll be really excited to chat about with you. And to answer as well, the benchmarking numbers come just from those sites that have this biomonitoring included. Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I don't want to keep folks too much longer after, but thank you so much for the enthusiasm. It's really energizing for us. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for updates. We can't wait to continue releasing new features and sharing and creating more connection with our urban biodiversity. And I do see that Noemi has dropped this link to our Earth Day webinar if you want to come along for that too. And with that, wishing everyone a wonderful day.